James again, Tristan,
Yep.
Sheila,
Michael,
Conrad, Taz,
Saroja, Ruchika, Suzanne, Tony,
Adrian,
Dean,
James.
and Bob. Off you go.
morning everyone.
Morning, Bob.
Good to see you all.
Good to see you.
I got up this morning, I wasn't feeling too hot, or too cold, or too good, or too bad. Wasn't very nice at all. And then, after a little while, the doorbell rang and there was Tristan. And then there was somebody else, and somebody else. And it became much easier and lighter as the more energy was released into this room. And look at it now. And we talk about non-duality. One without a second, not two. And that it's only life. And isn't that so? And each and any one of you can't negate your livingness, your beingness right now. But when the belief is that there's a separate entity, only this personal life, it can be very, very narrow and very tied up. But each one of you sitting there, can you say, I begin and end here? Are you a separate entity, or are you the life? If you shut yourself off, as they say, from the sunlight of the spirit, well, then life becomes very narrow. Like it was here this morning. Wasn't shut off from, but was what was appearing in it or expressing it was overwhelming. Wasn't being, or it could be with its feelings and emotions that stirred up, let go of as easily as it has been over the past few years. But now, because it's recognised as the one essence, the one being, it is much easier. And as I say, none of you can say, I am the life. You can all say, I am the life. But can you say you are separate from the one sitting next to you, or the one over the end of the room, or recognise when that was there, we've isolated ourselves, separated ourselves. And there can be fear and anxiety for that sense of separation. But in recognising the absoluteness of it, the totality, what or who or why is there to fear, to be angry at, or to feel unfulfilled? And while it's ignored, there will be that non-fulfillment, that anger, that fear, that isolation. There's a great ease in it here right now again, because it's been opened up to what's come into the room and expressing itself through each and every one of you. And so I can point to it again and again and again. And each one of you can do the same. And the more it's recognised and open to, the easier it will flow through. And the more and more so-called seeming individuals that hear it can resonate with it and make it their own. And making it their own, that's where the life will be expressing more effortlessly, more naturally. And in that effortless naturalness, there is a great sense of well-being, love, warmth, understanding, or cognizing, recognizing. They call it a cognizing emptiness. Pointing out this manifestation is the one life, the one essence, which in a lot of the scriptures will call God as the one essence. But we go a little bit further here, pointing out the idea of God as just another word, another label. And what was said before they had the term God in the most ancient of scriptures will tell you there is only that absolute life, that pure intelligence energy, that one being, that one knowing, that loving to be, that one essence appearing and expressing and everything. And that's the wonderment of it. It can express as anything and everything. So each and none of us, though we've taken on the belief we're separate entity, we are these persons, we are these individuals, we're not good enough, or we've got to never become that. What they've told you, that is all there is. It's always and never been that. It's only our conceptualising, our thinking. As Shakespeare told you 400 years ago when he said there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. If it's not good, if it's not bad, we're not putting those thoughts on as good or bad, what is it then? Isn't it just as it is? And what is wrong with right now if you're not putting any of those thoughts or concepts onto it? You can't put the concept bad, good, or high, low, pleasant, painful, loving, hating. Just as it is. Just like the space around you and the life outside of this window here that's going on in this manifestation. It's just as it is. And it doesn't mean to say there's only just one thing happening, and it's good and beautiful, it's wonderful. It's expressing and appearing in all its diversity. But it's never been anything other than the one. Because just like it's daylight here now, and the other side of the earth where they're facing away from the sun, it'll be dark. But who's claiming the darkness and the light? Is it the darkness screaming out, I'm the darkness? Is it the light, I'm screaming out, I'm the light? Or is it just as it is? And isn't it like everything else, transient? What's light here will stay light for a little while, and then the earth will move around the sun and face away from it, and it'll be dark again. Are we too concerned with that? We're not. Why? Because it's been going on all our so-called lives, day in, day out. It's been daylight, dark, daylight, dark. And taking it into a little bit further, looking into the mind. What's our thinking been? Good and bad, pleasant, painful, happy, sad, loving, hating. We're dividing it up constantly. But in any of that seeming division, has anyone stopped being? Not being this or being that. As soon as the this and that comes in it, you're putting the concepts and division on, but just being. Or being aware. Use the term awareness. And you can't tell me what awareness is. But you know for a fact that you're not unaware. And no one sitting there that's unaware. Everybody is aware. But what that awareness is You do not know. That you can't say you are not. So you are being. And you're knowing that. And you're loving to be that. Being, knowing, loving to be. That's the way of putting the Satchitananda. The existence, the consciousness, the loving to be. And the Nama Rupa. What's Nama Rupa? Well, they call it in the scriptures name and form. What's names? Names are words. And what are the words? We put on the words the shapes and the form. Body, mind, carpet, chair, tree, flower, light, bird. Name and form. The forms, the patterns, the shapes they're appearing in, and the labels we put on them. And they tell us clearly that Nama Rupa, name and form, is Maya. It's illusion. You and I and everyone sitting here are illusory patterns, shapes and forms. But the life that you are, that's shining through, the innate knowing, the pure intelligence energy, is there. And have a look at that. Who took that breath you just took? Was it the name and form, me, the body, mind? Or was it the life and self? The name, the life is breathing you, beating your heart, growing your hair in your fingernails, digesting your food. And without any concepts, what is it? Without any words, it's just still pure being, pure knowing. Because in that knowingness, the knowing is there. If I use the words, I have to say I am. And I am is a concept or a word. But without the words, anyone disappeared? Anyone who's not saying or having that thought right now, you haven't disappeared out of this room. You haven't gone anywhere. And that knowingness is still there. So, see what's happened. We've taken on this idea that we are this person. We are this body. We are this mind. We are this separate entity. And today I had a good experience and it's great. But somebody said something to me that I don't like, and I believe they were right and I'm wrong, or I shouldn't be like this. And the story starts. I start a story about me. I'm not good enough, or I'm unhappy, or I'm fearful, or they shouldn't have said this, and I'll get revenge on them and I'll do this. The story starts. All these concepts. Imagination. And the Nisargadatta tells you clearly, nothing can trouble you excepting your own imagination. And it's not somebody else's imagination. It's your own imagination. What you are imaging in. And that is all imagination in. We're creating mental images, conceptual image. I am Bob the Australian that's not feeling too good today, unhappy, and all this today, and I'm not going to last too long. I won't be around. And I can create a great story. And the energy belief can come into it. And it'll be very miserable. But does it have to be that way? And I recognise it doesn't. And while it was that way, and it was that way for many years, it seems very solid and very substantial. Because we learnt words. And what did we do when we went to school? We learnt more words. And what did the other kids all around us tell you? Little so-and-so. And I don't like you. You're a nasty boy. Or you're this, that and the other. Or you're a good one. You're my favourite. All these concepts, and they were all fulfilling those concepts themselves. When everybody's thinking like that, it's hard for anything that hasn't investigated and thrown into that to deny it, negate it. And so it's natural for us all to take it on board and live from that aspect, from that point of view. And it goes on for years, and will continue to go on. But fortunately, there is something innately which each and every one of you are, which is using that pattern, shape and form to express through, that recognises and reasons and comes up, this is not good enough. There's got to be a bit more to it than that. And we've got the scriptures there and the religions and all the rest of it that point to it, but they put all sorts of concepts and ideas on it, put pattern, shapes and forms, but broke it down from its absoluteness into provisos. You've got to do this, or you've got to become that, or that. You're not good enough as you are. But the ones that are really understood is say, no, you are already that. And that is all there is. And be what you are. Quit pretending to be what you're not. And whether we like it or not, that's what's been happening. The pretense that we are this person, we are this entity, we are this individual. And they got many names for it. They call it absoluteness, God consciousness, pure awareness, all sorts of descriptions. And when they are investigated and looked into, and this believed in entity, which is the sense of separation, which is the sense of individuality, which is separation, and personal is the problem. Because with that sense of separation comes insecurity, which is natural enough. If you feel you're isolated and alone, you don't know what's going on around you, or who's going to be dirt on you, or where you're going to go, like the wars and that are going on in the world today, and the unhappiness, all based on individuality and separation, and something others believe being taken away they're going to lose, or if they do it they're going to acquire or get something. And that's the cause of all our problems. We've learnt words and taken on the idea that we are this separate entity, this person. I am Bob, the Australian, the good fellow, and you're not that, you're not me, you're a so-and-so. Or maybe you're not so bad, but if you say something I don't like, you're going to be the other way around very quickly. Because of the discrimination, the division and separation goes on. Why shouldn't it? If we're learning words and focusing on the words. Because have a look at this thing called mind, which is nothing but thought, word. What did Shakespeare tell you? When he said there's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Well, there it is. And look at your mind and see if that's true. What I'm thinking is either good or bad. It's pleasant, it's painful, it's happy, sad, loving, hating, it's positive, don't you? We put the word and put the meaning into the word that we've taken on, and put the belief or the energy into the belief. And that energy will make it better or worse, seemingly, because it's believed in. But what if I look into the word and ask myself, how many words was I born with? Well, when I look into that, I realise I wasn't born with any words. I can't remember my birth. Have a look along those lines. And if you can, tell me. But you can't tell me. Why can't you? Because you know very well that you didn't have any words. You didn't pick up words till you were a couple of years old. So what would that tell you? It must tell me that I'm prior to the word. If I was there for a couple of years before I learnt the word, I was there. What was I? I wasn't the word. I wasn't the concept. But could I negate the beingness? There was a knowing there that I am, or I was. I was is not correct anymore, because I was implies a past time, a time when I was. What is wrong with right now? Is I now was, or is it presence? were you present 5 minutes ago? If you like to recall it, you can say, yes, I was present 5 minutes ago. If you don't recall it, what can you say about it? But can you negate your beingness right now? There's no one sitting there who can say, I am not. Well, you'll say, can't I? I'll say, I'm not, I'm not, I'm not. But realise in even saying that, what enables you to say it? There must be something there. There must be a life there that's enabled it to be expressed. And is it that body that's alive? The life it seems to express through this body. The body is made up of breathing, heart beating, hair and fingernails growing, food being digested. All expressions of that life that makes up this seeming thing called a body. Which what do? I call it my body. Who is the entity or the individual or the thing that's the me or the my that's claiming the body? Is it this body itself? Is it this person? Well, I look at it and say, my house, my car, my hair, my set, all mine. Who's the me or the my? Isn't that a concept or a word? And I look back on it. The first couple of years of my life when I had no words. What was I saying about it then? I couldn't say I was, but I was making it be known by yowling or calling out or screaming, calling attention to itself that the parents could look after it. So the life was happening, the functioning was happening. But I didn't have words like me or mine to claim it. And so it would come up, and I might have been hungry, get a bottle or something like that to fix it, and it's quietened down, go on till something comes up, which I wasn't labelling as hunger or fear or anxiety, but it was just a sensation that was caused there, and the word hadn't been put on the sensation and discriminated. So the functioning was spontaneously and naturally. And that's what life is. Life is continually appearing, patterning and expressing. But life, the word life. Not the person, not the individual, but life itself. And look at that, what is life? Well, I look outside and I see the trees, their flowers, there's things happening, all sorts of things are happening. Wind, air moving around, causing the trees and things to move. It's all life expressing, patterning, shaping and forming. And that's what I'm told in the scriptures. I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. We think they're talking about this body, this person, me. I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. That sense of presence expressing through this pattern as the thought, I am. But is that thought the way? Is that thought the life? Is it the truth? You know the thought itself is not, because if I'm not thinking I am, I haven't dropped away, haven't disappeared, haven't stopped breathing, heart hasn't stopped beating. So I am prior to the thought. Just the same as I was prior to the thought when there was no thinking or expressing going on until I learnt words. And we've forgotten about it. We've lost sight of it and taken on the belief that we are this individual, this separate entity. And that's caused a lot of fear, a lot of distress, a lot of unhappiness, a lot of guilt. Because I see these other patterns, shapes and forms which are before these eyes right now, and there are all sorts of things, all this manifestation is appearing in this seeing. But that's what's not recognised. I think there is a seer that's doing the seeing. And that seer that's doing the seeing is separate from the seeing. And what I see is not the seeing, it's become the object. What I think is not the thinking, it's become the object. But where is the seeing, the thinking, the hearing, the tasting, touching taking place? In this pattern through which that life, if that life wasn't expressing through this pattern, what would it be? Well, you've been around long enough to see plenty of patterns where the life has stopped expressing through. What are they? Corpses. What happens to the corpse? It breaks down. Where does it go? Does it stick around for very long? It's not long before it rots and dissolves and go back into the space-like awareness which all this manifestation is appearing. All conceptual images. Concepts. What is a concept? A mental construct. And that's the wonderment and amazement of this patterning that goes on, the life in this body. It has the capacity of knowing, of being, of conceptualizing or thinking, and expresses in all its diversity, in all the wondrous ways, and lots of wondrous ways and things that we haven't even come across yet, which the scientists and philosophers and all the rest are still discovering. It hasn't got any beginning. It hasn't got any ending. It's not complete and endless. It's constantly ever fresh and ever new. Presence awareness. Constantly transient. Constantly changing. Now, going along as this separate entity, I realise there's been a lot of misery at times. There have been moments when it's been happy, when it's been enjoyable. Lots of moments when it was unhappy, when it was depressing, where it was jealous, it was angry, it was fearful, discontented. What are all those things? They're all words, I've learned, all labels or concepts, which the meaning has gone into and formed a reasoning, a knowing, or seemingly feeling, or an emotion. And what does that do to this pattern through which you're expressing? It upsets it. Without the concepts, without the words, when you're in deep sleep, what's going on there? The sleep is being enjoyed, going along. There's not all this unhappiness and fear that's going on. If we start dreaming, form concepts and words, it is. Then we think. But we realise in a deep, deep sleep, there was nothing wrong. Everything was okay. But it wasn't too good because there was no thing happening. Now what happens if I recognise that and in the waking state don't latch onto the story, the words which have been upsetting it, which have been discriminating it, been causing the dualism perspective of it, and the feelings that go along with that, the fear, the anger, the depression, causing all this psychological suffering to happen. And the belief in it to make it seemingly a lot stronger than what it is. And making this physical pattern, which when it was born was pristine, new, ever fresh, miserable, unhappy, discontented, and unreal. And I sit here now, and as I said before, get the sense when it's one, when there's one was sitting there are a lot of thoughts were unable to go on. But now, in sitting with here, and the recognition of each and every one of you, it's fresh, it's new. There's a sense of well-being. I can settle into it. And it's taken away a lot of that disease that's breaking this pattern down. That it hasn't got long to go to focus around. And it's good to sit in here, to feel well. And it's each and every one of you that helps it to be that way. So don't deny or negate your own being. Don't isolate and separate yourself, because you're not only separating yourself, you're stopping others from recognising the naturalness and effortlessness of what you are. They say in the scriptures, nothing either good or bad but thinking makes it so. So thinking is the concept that puts on the concept of time. When you look into the concept of time, is there a past if you don't think about it? Well, go and have a look. What's the past? What they call the past is something that's gone. Go back and live it if you can. Can you live yesterday? You can't go back and live it yesterday. Can you live 5 minutes ago? You can't live 5 minutes ago. You can recall it. Bringing those minds, you can recall what you said 5 minutes ago and what it was like then. But when are you recalling it? Isn't it right in this moment? You can't tell me what you thought a minute ago unless you bring it back again and bring it into the foreground. But there'll be a fresh and new thought there in this moment. The same with the future. Imagine and anticipate what you're going to do when you leave it there. And we're constantly doing that. As you see, the life we've been living as this separate entity is always past and future. The presence hasn't lasted very long, because the presence is this spontaneous and ever fresh now moment. Spontaneous means it hasn't got any duration. Past has got a duration. Last week, last year, 20 years ago. The future has got a future. Tomorrow, next week, next year. But presence. Grasp this presence right now. I've got it. Hasn't it gone? And isn't it there again, fresh and new? It's got no length or time or date or anything to it also. It's a spontaneous functioning, a vibration of energy, a movement of life. And they tell you there's only life. Life is all there is. There is nobody who lives a life. Nobody. A lot of bodies in this room. Bodies are expressing and patterning that life, but there's no individual life. When we think the life goes out of the body, well, it's individually gone. But if there's only life, if it went out of this pattern, and that's all there is, wouldn't it be everywhere else also? But the way it expresses in its diversity in its many ways. But it's still only the one. Recognise that? What are you going to do? You're going to stay in this narrow confines of the personal, the poor, limited, unhappy, fearful, anxious, depressed, jealous me? Or are you going to open up and say, I am that life. I am that spontaneous joyousness, the sense of well-being that's there if I'm open to see it. But while I'm open to see the fear, the anxiety, and bringing that to the fore, the stress, the guilt, the shame, that's the way it's going to express. But be what they say. There is only life, and you are that. That's the great mantra. I am that. Look at that. That is all there is. Isn't it? Because that's the chair I'm sitting in. That's you. That's the carpet. That's me. That's the mirror at the end of the room. That's the room. Everything is that. Which we don't leave as that. We put the label on the word. Tree, chair, flower, women, sky, space, God, you, me. All discriminating that. And everything is that without the word. Take the words off and see for itself. Stop the thought if you can. You can't pause the thought for very long, but you can for a brief moment, and see for yourself. Without the concept, without the word, do you stop breathing? Do you stop hearing? Stop tasting, touching or smelling? And realise that you are prior to the word. Prior. You are before the word. And as you go back, as I said earlier, see that you didn't have any words till you were a couple of years old, you know that for certain. I was there for a couple of years. I didn't know any words. And I was getting along not too bad. There might have been things happening in my life like they're happening everywhere. But left as they were, with the aid of the parents and things around me, they worked themselves out, and I've got to this stage where this sense of separation became more developed and more seemingly real, and the suffering became worse. But the looking into it over a few years has seen for what it is, and it's become less. But there again, as so-called time goes on, and the pattern ages like everything does, and it's going to break down eventually, well, it's seemingly happening quicker now. But where before there's a fear and uncertainty about death, where can it go? What can happen to it? When people like Nisargadatta say there's only life. There's nobody who lives alive. None of these bodies here or anywhere else are living in the life. There's only life. There's nobody who lives alive. And life lives on life. For out of life, more life comes. And where did you come from? You came from that life of your parents, your father and your mother. Without that life, could you be there? And where did they come from? The life of their parents. And where did they come from? The life of their parents. When did life begin? You've got to go back and try and utilise the concept of time. And realise that time itself is a mental concept. As I pointed out before, there's no past unless I think about it. There is no future. So without time, there is the timeless, presence awareness, beginningless and endless, birthless and deathless. So in the understanding and recognition of that, recognition or cognising, recognising, and the Buddha told you that, expressed it. Many people down through the ages, so-called people, have expressed it, have understood and recognised the oneness, the non-duality. And you are the same as they are. And you and I can do the same. Recognise. The Buddha called it a cognising emptiness. Realise that emptiness has the capacity of cognising or knowing. There's not one person in this room who hasn't got that cognising or knowingness. Each one of you know that I am. And he made the statement then that emptiness is form. And you and I and all these patterns are forms, shapes and forms. The trees are shapes and forms. All things are shapes and forms except the space. The space has got no shape or form. It's got no centre, no beginning or end. You can't find a point to it. Space is no thing, it's emptiness. And he called it a cognising emptiness, pointing out that cognising space-like awareness is the emptiness. For as he said, the emptiness is form. It's vibrating into pattern shapes and forms. And the forms are nothing but the emptiness. Those pattern shapes and forms we take to be real. You, me, the tree, the flower, the birds, the bees and everything. We take them to be empty and separate and something else. He says the forms can be nothing other than the emptiness. So it's all that. And then as Wei Wu Wei says, why are you unhappy? Because everything you say, everything you think, and everything you do is for yourself. And it's the saying, thinking, and doing, which is the division, which is the separation. He says everything is for yourself, and he says there isn't one. There isn't a yourself. There isn't a myself. There is what they tell you in the scriptures. There is one self, the one life, the one Atman, or the one self. And then we make the mistake of calling it God and separating it again into something higher. And that's a trap also, as far as I'm concerned. Because that self is everything. You are that one self. It patterns, shapes and forms and experiences and expresses as everything. That's the wondrous intelligence of it, the amazing life of it. Grasp it right now. I am that life. Enjoy it. Live it. Breathe it. Express it. And then the thoughts, feelings, and emotions, left as they are, will constantly change. Because that's what this life is. It is ever fresh. It's ever changing. It's ever knowing. It's ever appearing. It is ever awareing or being. Why interfere with it? And it wasn't until I recognised that problem that others had pointed out that it's the very interference with it that's trying to change it. Leave it as it is. Unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. Remember, it brought you into existence through the functioning of the intelligence or life in your father and your mother that enabled that sperm and ovum to come together and form the little embryo which you are today. You didn't do anything about it then. The first couple of years of your life, you didn't have any words. You didn't do anything about it then. We took on this belief we are the person and think it's so important. We did it from then on and stuffed it up. It doesn't have to be that way. So, you all got a chance to tell us about it. And Cap will tell you all about it. We're on tune to somebody else. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good work.
Good work. You deserve the chocolate now. Stuff it up.
Good job.
Where is that?
Okay, here, oh, there, yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, this one goes in this. And we've got 24 people here with us and a lot of welcome messages from all over the world, from Maui, from Queensland. And one comment, beautifully expressed, Bob. You deserve that chocolate. That's from Christopher.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's chocolate from Dean's mom, for the one who will speak clearly. Yes, so apart from that, we don't really have any more comments. So the mic goes to you guys. If you have anything to ask or anything to comment or anything to share, or just see what you heard. Just even repeat, bring back what was... what was touching your heart the most about the spiel? Anyone wants to start?
I think the thing that really struck me was leave it unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. Because that's what's coming up for me more and more, or that's what's coming up here more and more in every aspect of the life that's living this. I just think it's probably one of the best little pointers of all time. That's what came up here.
Beautiful. Yeah, it is a lovely one.
Feed off that. Yeah, just going off that, and also what Bob was saying, about his experience this morning. And I think sometimes we can think, oh, I shouldn't have these, with this realization, I shouldn't have these thoughts that this is bad, or I'm thinking dual, but realizing that too is a part, that too can be observed, and the I am is prior to that, and just witnessing that too as a part of the play of Maya. So I really enjoyed Bob just sharing that, and then, how, yes, even, sattvic energy can, that awareness, we're never shut off from it, but that energy can kind of make it more in our field of awareness as well. So
Beautiful. Absolutely. And we have a comment here from Catherine and James. They're just sending love. That's, okay. No, sending love to everyone. I thought it was a question or a comment. So, okay. Anyone? If not, I'll just highlight how beautiful and important is that, like perfectly one. This is one message. This is all one. What Jane was saying and what James was saying and what Bob was saying in so many ways is really pointing to the one. If everything is that, well, what are you going to do with it? Leave it unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. And that includes the dysregulation, that includes the anger, the sadness, the doubts, any thought, any feeling, any emotion, any expression of that life is just appearing on that screen of awareness. That screen of awareness, which is what we essentially are. Because initially it feels like, when I close my eyes and I feel, that feels like there is me, individuality. No, individuality doesn't feel like anything. What is the feeling is when you push away the thoughts, the concepts, what you are, and you can rest in that undeniability of existence, of presence. That is what is directly experienced. The idea that I'm experiencing to be a woman is nonsensical. If I don't have a concept of being a woman, how can I possibly experience that in a moment? Yes, in the story, in the context, absolutely, but that's the dream. But within the direct experience of the moment, without relying on descriptions, thoughts, ideas that being believed or preconditioned, there's just the experience of being. And that experience of being is adorned or is dressed up in a costume of, no, this is me, I'm Australian or Polish, or I'm a woman, or it's a poor me and I had a trauma, or I have the ADHD, or whatever the concepts are. But those concepts are appearing secondarily, like Bob beautifully pointed on the beginning of the spiel. You were born as a little body-mind, but what was born? The life created that fetus, the life grew itself that body, and the life came out as the form that has been labeled or named. But as a little 3 months old, you didn't really have anything to do or know about the label or about the shape or form. That was just plain being, pure being. And then a language came on board, and the identification with the idea of what I am or who I am started strengthening from about the age of 2, when the mirror test is passed, and then things are added, experiences, memories, traumas. But the livingness is underneath it and is directly experienced right from before the birth of the body, really, up until now. And it is the same because it doesn't have any qualities. It's just the pure screen, pure presence. On that, the upset, the sadness, the concepts, the ideas come and go. As James was saying, they can be witnessed, so they're impermanent. They're just passing phenomena. So everyone directly experiences right now the pure presence, undivided, without any limits. If you experience being limited or separated, that is because of the concept. If there is an experiencing, let's say, of something that calls for a label of contraction or anxiety, that is also a concept. That experience of contraction of anxiety appears on that empty screen of pure knowing, pure existence, being, knowing, or Satchitananda. which is a lovely description also, because we love words. So suddenly the one became three, a trinity, omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience, Satchitananda, or being, knowing, loving to be. But it is just a description. Description is never described. Direct experience, when the words are pushed aside, is beyond words, because it doesn't have qualities. Nothing applies to it. And everything that comes and goes is just passing phenomena. It comes and goes in you, that space-like awareness, or sky-like awareness. We had a couple of emails exchange. We don't usually engage in email conversation unless I'm particularly asked for it, because Bob doesn't really type that much anymore. But there was a confusion around the idea of awakening. The email had the confession or a statement that the illusion of self was seen through, but they are memories of the trauma. Are they in a way of awakening? Well, awakening, if you even want to use that word, is only from the illusion of self. So if the illusion of self is being seen through, there's nothing else to be seen or awakened to. But who awakens from the illusion of self? There's no self that awakens, because a self is being awakened from. So that actually cleared the topic. Whatever shows up, trauma, memory, whatever, it doesn't really matter. It shows up in that clear seeing. And if the illusion of self shows up on that screen, well, that's just one of the content. It doesn't even matter. The suffering only shows up, and it happens when there is identification, the energy of belief. No, this is I, this is who I am, what I am. I am unworthy, I am limited, I am poor, traumatized, sick, mentally ill, or whatever. Well, what is that I? The pure field of knowing does not have those qualities. It's not sick, it's not limited, it's not anxious. And it is experienced moment to moment. But as Bob sometimes says, it is being experienced, but it is being ignored. The unborn Buddha mind is being traded for a thought of being that separate individual, that me. And nobody's guilty of it. It's just a habit. Go on, Arjun.
I was going to say, I think sometimes, like, there could be a lot of, when we talk about me and thoughts, it can feel like there's almost a tangibility to that sort of thing. It's like, well, what is this entity? But really it's a shadow. Like, it's a real...
Absolutely.
There was never any a me.
Yes.
It's a complete imagined thing.
Yeah.
So there was never a me.
Never.
There's not like one there and then it's going to go.
Absolutely.
Like it never actually existed. It's all
Never.
imagined.
It couldn't have.
So there's been some more deep scenes around that.
Yes.
Because sometimes it's like, oh, there's thoughts, there's me, and then the mind wants to go and analyse what's the me and all that sort of stuff. But I keep coming back to Bob's point, is like, even like, you know, the reflection in the mirror is literally like that, isn't it? It's an appearance.
Totally.
Go to grab it, it's not there. That's the same as a me. Oh, all right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's...
That's the metaphor.
And it's... you walk away from the mirror, the reflection goes, but there's something, you know, the mirror's still there, or, you know,
It
however
still
you want to look at
appears.
it.
Reflection
still
still
appears.
appears real.
And then when it goes, something doesn't go,
Yeah.
there you're still there. But I like Bob's stuff this morning also about the immediacy of everything and the spontaneity of everything.
Yeah.
Like, life just keeps lifing. It's lifing. Stopping to try and analyse it is like trying to, you know, I'm in the story again, and this is me experiencing this. My life doesn't care. It's just doing its creating and collapsing, and
there was never like it. There was never any other me either. Like no me. There was never a me. I was with my family last night, and you know, like, it's just this thing where there's just me's and stories of me's and endless, you know, remembrances of how me was and how me's changed and how me's evolved, and all this family stuff is fantastic. And and it's like, Bob, you know, Bob, you said it today, like, stop pretending who you're not, and be who you are. Like, and being who you are is free. Like, it actually there's no idea of what you really are. It's actually a spontaneous movement, a spontaneous action, a word, a feeling, a sensation, a response, and it's all completely unknown. Like, it just arises and explodes into whatever that looks like. And being who you are is undescribable, but it's wondrous. So we had this dinner with my family, and my dad got angry at my niece and walked 5 kilometres home. Got up from the table. He's never walked like 500 metres in the last 10 years. And he walked. And I was watching this whole parade of like everyone pretending. But if everyone's pretending who they're pretending, it's amazing when you just see it as it is. And it's beautiful. Like, it's an incredible show.
It is.
Of just like, it's like caricatures. Everyone playing their little role in the perfect way, and somehow, like, even that, like, I remember my dad used to have these moods, and it could last like months, and I just looked at him and just laughed, and that was the end of it. Like, that was the end of the story. He was happy, and it was all forgotten, and because there's no belief in the actual thing. It's being who you are is very spontaneous, unknowing. There's no, it doesn't drag into this whole history and of a pretense of what was not, which never was. It just, I don't know, it's very exciting. I'm not sure what I'm talking about, but I'm just happy to be here, and happy to be here with Bob, and thank you for everything, Bob, and everyone.
Beautiful.
And that's it.
Mitra behind it.
Sorry.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, I don't see what you see very clearly, so clear. So I understand now that it's probably very, obvious, and I'm just keep missing it. And then I turn back and really, like, when you say examine and investigate, Fars cannot stand the investigation, something like that you say, Bob. And so I'm starting actually doing this investigation. So in the sense of, in my senses and beliefs. So with the senses, hearing is very clear, When I close my eyes, there is no hearer, it's only hearing. And there is no separation, because the bird can sing over there, and I'm here, but I cannot really say I'm separated from the bird. So that's very clear. With seeing, it just occurred to me on Friday, maybe that's why I'm checking. Like, I'm just investigating every single one. Like, for seeing, I thought, well, if I see, for example, you over there or the pot over there, what's my evidence to say? And you say space is also included in that. So what is my evidence to say there is a separation? Is it as simple as this, or am I missing something?
Absolutely. It's super simple. It's even simpler than that.
Okay, so that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
So I'm not separated because I can't really say. They both in the field of awareness, right?
Absolutely.
So that's simple.
Very simple. Super simple. Just presence, appearing as forms.
Well done.
So sensing. So I'm feeling this couch, right?
Yeah.
I can say that the feeling also says that I'm not separated, right?
No, it's just one feeling.
But it feels separated.
No, it doesn't. It actually, can you separate sensation on your hand from sensation of the couch? You can't. It's one sensation.
That's right.
It's the thought that tells you there is a hand and there is a couch. Experience doesn't say there is two.
That's also very simple.
Yes, super simple.
As simple as this.
It's super simple.
Nothing simpler.
Nothing simpler. It's that simple that we miss it because we listen to the mind, to the translation. But the direct experience is singular.
I can't think of any other sense of what it is.
Lovely,
A tree,
don't
okay,
say it.
taste. Okay, you can just say that about everything then.
Everything.
Do you think you're going to work it out in the mind?
I think I can work it out in my mind. That's true.
Do you?
Yeah,
I
you can.
do.
You
I
can.
can't. What I'm trying to, I know that it's I totally believe you that when you say we can't comprehend it, we cannot understand. There is nothing to understand, basically, correct?
And nobody asking you to believe it. Investigate it yourself. You say, you totally believe me. It's no use believing me, because belief's not the actuality. Check it out.
But I'm checking out like this. That's
Yeah,
my way
check
of
it out.
checking out.
And what are you finding?
To be very honest, I don't understand why then I don't get it. Why I'm still stick to
But
the
you
stuff.
just got it. You just got it. You just realized that yes, there is one sensation. Yes, there is one seeing. You just said, "Oh, is it that simple?" That's it. Why you hold on to the idea that you don't get it?
There's an understanding that you don't understand.
Say that again, Bob.
Understanding that you don't understand, and that's really not even an understanding. That's a false idea. That's a concept.
There is an
Because-
understanding that I don't understand.
When you say, I don't understand, you wouldn't say that if you didn't understand, would you?
Why don't I get what you say? Something is blocking,
Because there's an I,
right?
there's an I in this narrative that you're saying this I or me doesn't understand, right? And so have a look at that me. That me, as Bob has so beautifully pointed out, is just a story. Leave it unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected, and what is there? Don't identify with that me in that narrative, because what you are is there's the me and there's the response to the me. The response to the me is I don't understand. There's the I or the me, and then there's the I don't understand. So it's like two.
Yes.
It's like, you know.
Yeah. Okay.
You
I get
like
it.
a dog chasing its tail. That's what it's like. It's like a dog chasing its tail.
That's
You
it.
know, when the dog stops, everything's just as it is.
That's very simple. Because
Mm.
when I want to find that me, I really can't find it.
Well, that's because it's only a story.
So the mind's trying to work out separation, can't work out separation.
Yeah.
You're using the wrong tool to try to experience and find the no separation. So the mind trying to work out and going, I shouldn't be feeling it. You know, it still feels like I'm separate to them and I'll feel like one thing. Is using the mind to try to, which will never get there because it's an imagined character trying to find something that's and
I
it's,
get
it's
that.
a concept,
Yeah.
so it can't find
So I get that.
reality.
I get that. So there is no me.
There is
Why?
no.
Okay, why? Then
Who wants to know? Who wants to know? The minute you
what
say
am
but
I looking
or why,
for then?
Exactly.
the minute you
Good
say
question.
but or why, it's the story again taking
Seeing
over.
that one that's looking.
Who's looking? Who wants to know?
But there is a feeling that I haven't found or I'm emotionally attached to it. I don't know what it
No.
is because I don't feel light.
But it's not a feeling. There is no feeling that I don't get it. Feeling is pleasure, pain, hot, cold. I don't get it. It's not a feeling. It's a thought. It's a concept. When you believe that concept, the belief in that concept causes the contraction in the body. And then you say there is no lightness. But be with the experience. Don't be with the thought. Because in direct experience, you look into seeing, hearing, and and then you go to the thought, to the concept. No, I don't get it. I don't feel light. I don't feel love. I don't rah. This is not a feeling. It's a story. Push that story aside and go again to the direct experience. If there is a direct experience of touching the sofa or the direct experience of heaviness, either way, it is a singular experiencing. And it is not there all the time, so it's not important. It is there for a moment, it will go away. For now, it is there. You can just bask in the mystery of that moment, of that experiencing. But the moment you give it a thought and you believe that thought, oh, that's a proof that I'm not getting it. Everyone's getting, oh, no, no. It's no proof. It's just leaving the direct experience and trading the unborn Buddha mind for the thought, for the story. But when you recognize that this is just a habit, you can see that storytelling, that narration habit, also as just another experience, like touching the sofa or hearing the sound.
And what comes to mind here is that wonderful quote of Krishnamurti's, all conflict arises between me and the other, right? So this me can only live in memory. It's a story of you, it isn't you.
What do I do to get rid of this?
You
This
you
one
can't.
over here. This is a feeling.
I can see this exploration as a bit of an outside-in approach and an inside-out approach. So the outside-in is seeing how things can be reduced right out of the picture, like there's a hand and a chair coming, one sensation. Okay, that doesn't take it to nothing, so that's why there's still a bit of a but but it does show you that a whole bunch of stuff is just additional and can disappear if we look more closely. And another one for me is like the idea that a microscope on the edge of your hand will reveal a lot of space, and you might be sitting on that edge, but if you zoom right in, you won't even be able to tell there's an edge there. So these are kind of outside-in ways, which kind of use the brain a bit, but also help you to see how there's a lot of extra concepts in there due to not looking closely enough. The inside-out approach is what's there when you're not thinking about it. That's it's kind of what Jane was referring to. And I hadn't really sort of seen those three words, the untouched, whatever, as being exactly the same as what's there when you're not thinking about it. I hadn't quite spotted that before. But and that one is just like get more and more of that, expand that, accept that that's enlightenment and expand it somehow. Just get to that non-thinking moment more often, more remembering to do it. And that happens more and more, and that's the true nothing there. The other thing here is that for here, it just seems to be a bit different from the others. Like some things have never been here, like the idea of free will, values when they're used as a kind of motivational tool, mean nothing much here at all, never ever have, and life goes on and there's no big disaster about that. Being majorly attached to people has never been that prominent here, and issues around that are more like, oh, people think I'm uncaring, or dear, maybe that's an issue, maybe I should look at it, But persistent well-being, or persistent not thinking about it, hasn't really happened much here at all. But you guys can say stuff, and it stays that way while it's being remembered because of this room and the things that are being raised constantly in this room. Okay, that was a complete aside. I was going to say, for here, it's a bit different. It's like, it's really sitting with the triggers, the out there triggers into reactions and annoyances, and this is difficult. The future's going to be uncomfortable. The present's uncomfortable. The future's going to be uncomfortable. The past doesn't ever show up here because of the no free will thing. It's really just not regrets meaningless when there's only ever one series of events that ever happen. So it really here, sitting with the cold face, and this sort of shows up. This show of like there might be a picture of being stabbed in a toga. Random shit shows up here. Phrases, times in the life when those phrases produce those set of same emotions from the same types of patterns in people, and all of that sort of shows up, and it kind of dissipates. And sometimes that issue goes away forever, and my life changes, and it's freer, and there's just less no reactions in that area. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's a little less, And oftentimes it takes a month before any more of that happens, and it's a reduction of the taught to speed here. What's that about? And there's processing is something that happens here, and all of that's a story because it just continues at its speed. There just becomes less botherment about how it's unfolding. or happening. So if some people just sitting there with the constant reminders of what's there when you're not thinking about it, meditation or that approach is relevant. Here, at first, I think getting rid of once I understood how all that works, getting rid of the triggers is the most relevant. And then after a couple of years of that, I can come here and an hour and a half of no thinking happens without even anything, because enough of those triggers, stop coming in. And my triggers involve like people's thoughts about me, so in terms of being naughty. So, that's the people in the room. So but I prefer it even today when these things still get triggered, because it's more like they're moving away from those triggers and seeing what it feels like and noticing things moving and seeing just movement. And there's an enjoyment here seeing how it all operates. And kind of, it's just getting closer and closer to the removal of those triggers. And a lot of what Bob said today about, ignoring that stuff and that sort of thing, it felt like on the horizon that it was going to get looked at here more. And it's just, no sense of me doing it. It's just going to, there's this like, oh yeah, that might show up soon. Yeah.
Michael.
Yeah, I think this has already been said, I think, but Mitra, when you put your hand on the couch and you have an experience of not being separate, and you hear, the bird singing, and you recognise you're not separate. So there's something there that's aware of the bird and the self, that's there before the sound of the bird, before the sound of the self. Is that what you're experiencing when you put your hand on the couch, or you hear what is it where you recognise that it's...
There is an awareness. Something is awareness. No, I don't need that.
No, but people who are with us need that.
So, yes, what I experience is something is aware of both. Aware of the bird, because I can say, apart from the bird, nothing else exists. Right?
No. When you say, I am unaware, there is an awareness of your unawareness.
That's it. Yes.
Well, which one are you going to take?
Awareness.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well done.
But what I wanted to say is, like, now go back to the thought, and then that I don't get it. So there's something that's there before the I comes up, and something that's there before the thought, I don't get it, comes up. It's exactly the same.
Yeah, beautiful.
And the other thing I'd say is too that, Bob so beautifully pointed out, basically, that in his own way, that there's this me, if you like, or I thought, and then there's the story that goes with it. Well, that's the nature of the mind. The nature of the mind is to work in the pairs of opposites. Pleasure, pain, happy, sad, you, me. And it's all time-bound, which is also a concept. Right? So when you really, really think about that, if you want to use the mind to figure things out, really think about that. The nature of the mind is to work in the pairs of opposites. And it's all appearing on that presence that you are, that awareness, whatever you want to call it. And it's like the beautiful metaphor of the mirror too. They're just little pings in the mirror. They're sort of pinging here, there, and everywhere, and it's always going to be that way. That's the nature of the mind. The images come and go, the story relating to them come and go. But what's happened to the awareness? What's happened to the awareness?
Nothing.
That's
It's
it.
there.
And it's the identification with those stories and those images, and naming and claiming them, and not and saying I don't understand. That therein lies the conflict. Because you're in bondage to something that is actually just a phantom. the phantom of the me,
Yeah.
which can only live in the past or the future. It's a story.
What is that false thing? What is doing that? That's funny. Before
It's a
I
habit.
just
I think sometimes it's, and the Nisargadatta would talk about this, it's better, worse, whatever, but it's helpful to use the mind to identify what you are not rather than what you are.
That's what I'm doing.
Because
Yeah,
because
that's right.
when you use the mind to try and identify what you are, it'll create some image, some concept. So anything that you perceive, you are not. You are the perceive, and see, we'll go into you are the perceiving. But even that, right? Don't get too attached to that idea. Just experience it and just discount. Anything that you perceive, you are not. Just discount, and what you are will remain.
Netty.
Beautiful. Yeah, great point. Did Peter want to say something?
I also didn't really have it in mind to say anything, but I will anyway.
I thought you were.
It's just, I'm thinking that life and awareness are the same thing, really. Aren't they? Life, awareness, presence, it's all the same thing.
Yeah, it's all
Is there
one.
any difference between those things?
No.
No. So, your experience of being here now is it. Well, it has to be it. Your experience of being aware is it. And your experience of being alive is it. If there is an experience at all to be had. It's like, and the life that I am is the life that you are, Mitra. Don't you see that?
No, but I would love to see it.
That's bloody obvious.
Can I just say something?
Ruchika.
I think it's very important to collapse the duality, collapse it into oneness, right? Because we are all the one. So it's a very good analogy is the ocean and the waves. Each wave rises from the ocean, but is nothing but the ocean. The wave cannot exist without the water, the ocean, but the ocean, the water can exist without that wave. But each wave that's rising is nothing but the ocean. So where is the difference? I can identify being a wave. And being that wave, yes, I have a beginning, I live for a while, and then I die. So there was a birth, a living, and a destruction of it into the ocean, but it rose from the ocean. So each image that you see is nothing but consciousness. When it is consciousness, because it's risen from consciousness, is sustained in consciousness, and it will then merge in consciousness. Then where is the duality? It's only consciousness appearing in many ways, images, or whatever.
Beautifully said. Yeah, I have a couple of comments also from the online community. This is from Kara. Thank you so much, Bob. I visited your home 20 years ago, and I wish I understood then. Love to all from Sunshine Coast. Someone 20 years ago shown up, and now it opens up. That happens quite a lot. It opens up. It's the seed has sprouted. Wonderful. And Jay says, love the oneness, and there is no myself, yourself, and even if you try and alter and not leave alone, it's still all part of the ever-changing present. Absolutely. And Kara says again, could I ask a question about physical pain? I understand it as Maya also. Is there something to do, quote unquote, or simply see clearly? And she meant illness. And we have, we come back to it in a minute. I'll just read so we are on the same page with everyone, and it's 5 minutes to go. Valeria says something about the energy here. We are not even in Melbourne, but somehow life has filled with joy now. Thank you, Kat Adamson and Sailor Bob Nanjoldi, Melbourne. Lovely to hear that. Thank you, Valeria. And Ram says, I love the honesty of this lady's questions. I think it's you, Mitra. Everyone, we all love it. It's beautiful. Yes, it's beautiful. Don't pretend. If there is doubt, confusion, let it out. Yes, thank you, Ram. And Jay says, dog chases tail until it stops. And American Julia says, a ghost is a very good metaphor, Jane. When we look closely enough, a ghost is nothing more than a memory. Laura says, wonderful. And Jane, Bob's words and this meeting has settled this avatar down. Phew, beautiful, thank you. And now, would you like Bob to comment on the question from Kara about the pain? She understands it as Maya, but she's asking if there's anything to do. I know what you usually answer to that question.
What?
See what spontaneously comes up. If you are moved, if life moves you to take pain medication or consult a doctor, a health professional, or even a hypnotist,
Well,
whatever spontaneously comes up.
Pain is a sensation, isn't it?
Yes.
And it's a sensation that all is not well. His body called to
Call
do
for
something
attention.
about it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
do something about it, but when you conceptualise it, let it go into thoughts, concepts, ideas, become overwhelming, cause lots of other things to happen to them.
Yeah, and you'll either be drawn to take the drugs or you won't be.
Yeah.
That's how I do. What happens with the back thing that keeps coming up here? But yeah, it's just whatever comes up.
And sorry, Kara, that you are in pain. But as Bob says, it is important to understand that pain has a vital function. It is really part of the survival self-protection mechanism. And it is an information that something needs attending. And just see what comes up. And yeah, there is no doing. You recognize that this is sensation happening within the dream. But just if there is no doership, if there is just a spontaneous arising of a thought or idea, just like spontaneous heartbeat, like spontaneous breathing, spontaneous action thought that takes you where you need to go. There is no need to separate, oh, now I don't get the message because I'm the doer and I'm doing. No, it's just the way animals attend to their own wounds. They find the shade, then lie and rest. If there is anything else to do, it probably will come up. So I hope you get that resolved.
I'd just like to say about the waves that you can also see the air and the wind that blows the waves and the air is water in another form as well.
And everything comes from love, I think.
Yeah.
Even the suffering, even all the disturbances, all the pain.
Absolutely.
It's coming from that place of love that doesn't look like it at the time.
Yeah. But it is loving
It wants
be.
to push through and bring it up and have it transcended, or go see someone to get some help with it, or whatever. You know what I mean? It's, the body's talking, and it's just screaming out from that place, but it's love underneath.
Absolutely.
All the suffering has been useful. It's God saying, come and look at there's no God. I don't like the word God, but
Love's better.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Did you want to say something?
What else did you know?
In the Bhagavad Gita, it says, to the wise man, pleasure and pain are one. And I think sometimes there's pain or there's discomfort, and it's not the sign of an illness. I think realizing pain is inevitable part of duality. There can't be pleasure without pain. There can't be joy without sorrow. And just realizing that it's inevitable. It's the interplay of opposites. But recognizing that you are beyond that. You are the witness of that. That is appearing in you. And then all of a sudden, these questions kind of start to recede. And yes, that realizing and accepting it for what it is, and then the action or non-action just happens spontaneously.
Yeah.
The action figure will either act or not.
As you said, pleasure and pain are one. Good and bad are one. Everything is the one. It's the description, the describing it, and taking them to be dualistic. That is the problem. So what are you going to do? If everything's the one, where's the duality?
There isn't any.
And Kara says that, thanks Kat and Bob, I'm not in pain, but I work with people who are. Yeah, I hope you gonna elevate pain there. I mean, you are not a doer, that life expressing through you and as you.
I was with you, James, and like, I was just showing off, and I fell on my face. and then I was bleeding, and using one of these contraption exercise things, and so I was in a bit of pain, right? But I was in awe of watching this whole show unfold, and I was laughing hysterically.
Wow.
Everyone thought I had concussion, but I was the pain was just like magnificent. It was like magnificent, and the blood was like this incredible occurrence, and everyone was like looking like this guy's really lost the plot. He seriously got concussion, but it wasn't anything. I was totally lucid and totally aware of pain and blood, and the whole experience was like just fantastic.
I had an experience when I worked at Bob's health food store in the 1980s, and I cut a big hunk out of my finger, and Bob was there, and he said, just watch it, it's only a sensation. There was a hunk out of my finger and there was blood pouring down, and I mean that changed every time I hurt myself from that point on. Changed everything what he said to me at that time. Just watch it, it's only a sensation, who's it happening to, etc.
You might have mentioned before I was at a satsang and I had a wicked headache, so I just went in another room, and just in one moment there would just be like pain, and then the next moment there would be sitting with that reaction as pure reaction, so then it just dissolved to nothing for a bit, and then the next moment it'd just be like nothing, and then the next moment pain again. So just sat with these like, a third of a second for each one, really. It just went round and round and round. But it kept me occupied, and so I wasn't miserable. Yeah, for about half an hour or whatever.
Yeah, I've just finally, I've been struggling sleeping lately, like rough shoulders, really bad pain in the shoulders, and taking all these medications, and just, it was pretty rough at the time, but it's like this. It moved into like seeing that I'm just like, this is just happening on the space out of which this stuff is appearing on. Like it's not the story of me experiencing the pain. It's just the pain in the body. So yeah, it's the mental stuff that jumps on that creates all the hurt, or makes it a lot worse than letting it. It'll pass quicker the less of that sort of jumping onto it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful.
It's still a little bit shit, but
that's a beautiful distinction between the pain and suffering. Yes. Yeah, because the pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. You can actually get some. I mean, not necessarily a great joy from pain, but at least being really curious and really open and really learning about everything in the whole manifested world is a vibration, pulsation, throbbing of life. So that pain, experience of pain, we had people with chronic pain coming here for individual meetings and in the group settings that were saying that the pain was the greatest curse and the greatest blessing, because through the experience of pain and through giving up and surrendering to chronic pain, they had the most profound realizations, which eventually pulled them to the place of clear seeing. And also, sometimes it pulled them to the place of ending their lives, because that's an option also if there is no other way, and who is there to judge it? And of course, I hope your pain will resolve permanently, and I wish everyone pain-free life, and that's it for today.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you,
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.